Hey guys, I'm coming from my cult of true crime lab. You guys like the background? I'm always working on something devious in my lab right behind me. How you guys doing tonight? What did you guys think of the videos? Very insightful, huh? Yeah. We now know that that crime scene was staged, don't we? Xana didn't order Jack in the Box. Somebody went into the restaurant and picked up the Jack in the Box and then delivered it to the crime scene. Gee, I wonder who that could have been. I don't know, maybe someone that fit in Emma's description, or who they're calling Bonnie. Gee, it just makes you think. What's really going on in this case, huh? Yeah. What else are they lying to us about? Is this entire trial a sham? Are we being conned by the prosecutor there in Idaho? I mean, after all, if some college students can stage a crime scene, what else are they capable of? And Dylan's whereabouts the night of the murders wasn't even accounted for. Where was she? Was she with Bethany? To get the timeline straight? That just makes you wonder, guys. Oh, it really does. It just makes you wonder. What else are they hiding in this case? I'm starting to think maybe Mr. Koberger is innocent and he's their patsy. Yeah. Koberger is the sacrificial lamb. But for who? The cartels? The college? Who's he the sacrificial lamb for? The state? It just makes you wonder. Things that make you go, what's really going on in Idaho? This entire case is fucked up. And poor Brian, surrounded by fucking sharks. Really now? Why is the prosecution constantly sealing evidence? Just like the IGG that they wanted sealed on the 23rd. Just like the court case coming up this Friday. They want the entire court case sealed. Huh. All to protect the grand jury proceedings. I thought the grand jury had already met. Is he impaneling another secret grand jury this Friday? I see now why Brian wants everything unsealed. He knows that the prosecution is doing some shady stuff. Just makes you wonder exactly what the prosecution is trying to pull. Yeah. I can't wait to get back to my little laboratory behind me so I can find out exactly what the prosecution is up to. You know? Let's hear some comments in the comments section of this live chat. Or maybe some live chat. Let's do a little Q&A on what's really going on there in Idaho. Because I don't think it's very good what's going on there in Idaho. I really don't. I think, guys, we're all being lied to. Seriously, I think we are being lied to. Lied to by the judge, lied to by the prosecution, lied to by the police, lied to by the college, and especially lied to by Dylan and Bethany because they know the truth on what happened that night. But they're not saying nothing. No, no, no. Oh, yeah, Larry, I know trial testimony will tell the truth. But will Dylan testify? Will Bethany testify? Bethany's already fighting the subpoena to come back. Now, I wonder why she is fighting the subpoena to come back, Larry. I know Ann Taylor can't wait to get Dylan on the witness stand because Ann Taylor will rip her to shreds. Why was there an 8-hour wait to call 911? That'll be the first question asked to Miss Mortensen by Ann Taylor. And if Bethany testifies, which I don't think she will, she's already ducking and dodging the subpoena to testify on Brian's behalf because Ann Taylor knows what really went on in the house. And she knows that her client is a sacrificial lamb. What do you think about that, Larry Evans? Do you think he's a sacrificial lamb? I think he's a sacrificial lamb. I think he's a lamb being led to the slaughter. Yeah, Larry, I know they're hiding evidence. The entire town knew about the murders at 8:30 in the morning. Hunter Johnson is the one that found the bodies at 8:30 in the morning. BZK, or you mean BK? If he was involved in the murders, maybe he was cleanup. Oh, I understand that, Larry. I can't get past the 8-hour delay either. I really cannot get past that 8-hour delay. Frozen shock phase for 8 hours. When I researched it, the max frozen shock phase lasts is 4 hours. Top 5 tops. Because the first initial phase is frozen shock phase. The next phase after that, you're starting to come to realization. But I just think it's funny how they want us to believe the 4 a.m. timeline, guys. They really do. Oh, you got to believe the 4 a.m. timeline. When And what I think, Larry, is that entire crime scene was staged. I think it was, because you had somebody fitting Emma's description walking into the Jack in the Box there in Pullman, and then taking it to the murder house. Gee, that's kind of fishy now, isn't it? I think Emma staged the Jack in the Box, because I did some checking. Jack in the Box closes at 2 a.m. They stopped taking orders at 2 a.m. I don't think the Jack in the Box DoorDash was real. I think Emma went into the Jack in the Box, ordered the food, took it back to the King Road house, and then planted it in Xana's room. Just like I did some research on TikTok. TikTok does have an occasion, sometimes minute occasion, of starting by itself. If you put it over other apps, it will start by itself and play videos. So just because there was TikTok activity at 4 a.m., there is no proof of life. Just because there was a DoorDash order, that means there's no proof of life. Yeah. Oh, my prediction is the same, Larry. A mistrial or acquittal. And why is the prosecutor trying to steal the IGG, knowing that the defense wants it, but yet he wants to seal it? What's he trying to hide, guys? What is the prosecutor trying to hide? And then this Friday, they're having a court case, which I plan on live streaming. He wants the proceedings for the court case to be sealed because of, quote unquote, protecting the grand jury proceedings. Protecting the grand jury proceedings, guys. I thought the grand jury had already met. I've seen why now Brian wants everything unsealed, because he knows that they are being very, very shady in his court case. You know? I think it's shady what the prosecution is doing in the court case. Honestly do. And I want to hear from the people watching out there if they feel what the prosecutor is doing is shady too. Come on, Q&A, guys. Question and answer segment. Why do you feel the prosecutor is trying to seal everything up? The IGG, as what he calls Exhibit 1, he wants that sealed to protect, quote unquote, the the way he put it, informants. He doesn't want anything getting out about who informed on who. He called that Exhibit 1. So he wants the IGG sealed, along with, and the way he put it, anybody that informed going towards the IGG. Well, not technically protecting jury selection, Larry. I mean, he wants the entire court case that day sealed to protect, quote unquote, the grand jury proceedings. Does he want to impanel another grand jury secretly? Is that why he's having this court date sealed? I've noticed that the prosecution is sealing everything in this case against the wishes of Ann Taylor. Ann Taylor doesn't want stuff sealed. She wants a very transparent trial. But yet you have this prosecutor who is sealing everything. And why was Kaylee's Reddit information served a search warrant? I'd like to know that one, Larry. Why was her Reddit information served a search warrant? Kaylee Gonzalez. But none of the other kids' Reddit information was served a search warrant. Only hers. Could this be a bigger case that they're trying to hide, guys? Really? Could this be a very big case? Could Brian have possibly been a hitman that night? It just makes you wonder. Sealing documentation is to protect the integrity of the case. Then why, oh why, Larry, has the prosecuting attorney not handed over any exculpatory evidence? It took Ann Taylor 11 times, 11 discovery motions from January 2023 up until a couple of weeks ago to get any type of discovery evidence from the prosecutor. And to this day, I don't even think he's going to give it up. That's why he's sealing evidence one, as he calls it, because he doesn't want the defense to get a hold of it. Oh, I know BK is not a hitman. That just makes you wonder. A lot of people say he didn't do it. A lot of people say he didn't do it. And just like the last video in Chaos Sector, they're wondering if possibly he could have been doing a hit that night for somebody. That's very true, Larry. But the prosecutor does have. Hi, Holly. Missed you. It's been a few days. If the prosecutor doesn't have it, then there's nothing to hand over. But he does have Brian's touch DNA and his DNA sample when he was arrested. But he don't want to hand that over. And Larry, why is he not getting the other three unknown male DNAs tested? Does he have his scapegoat? Does he have his patsy? Is that why he's not want to hand the other three unknown male DNAs over to the defense or get them tested because, quote unquote, we have our man? What do you think about it, Holly Berry? Oh, yeah, I know it's a court order violation. I know, Larry, it's a court order violation. That's why the judge told him he needs to hand it over. The prosecutor with this IGG is playing smoke and mirrors with the defense. They know he has it. He knows he has it. But he's doing the whole smoke and mirrors. Oh, you don't see it in this hand? Oh, it's in this hand. Is that why the judge had to jump all over him in the last court date? Told him he needs to hand it over? I really don't trust that prosecutor. Because Larry, if you look at it, Brian is surrounded by piranhas. His lawyer, Ann Taylor, is an alumni of the U of I. The prosecutor is a alumni of the U of I. The judge is an alumni of the U of I. The coroner is an alumni of the U of I. Plus, she's also a professor of law at the U of I. And she has a law firm in Moscow. And so does our Mr. Scott Green. He has an international law firm there in Moscow. So that makes you wonder. And then there's the whole drug trafficking ring going on in Moscow. Is the college's pockets being lined with drug money to look the other way? And there's yep, Holly, he's in a nest of vipers. I mean, but Larry, you've got to admit, there is some shady stuff going on in Moscow that none of us really know about. I mean, we've all heard the talk about the drug trafficking ring in Moscow. I mean, that one video I showed from Chaos Sector, there was a drug buy going on at the corner at the grub truck that night, the night Kaylee and Maddie was there, and you could clearly see in Maddie's left hand, she was looking down with her hand cupped, like she had pills in her left hand, and then she stared at the chunky guy with the hat and the beard, and he just smiled. Hey, Deborah G., how you doing tonight? But I honestly, a lot of people say there's a conspiracy. A lot of people say there's not a conspiracy. But you've got to look at all the players in the game. There may be shady stuff in a college town, but where does it relate to a capital murder case? Very good question. I don't think the 4 a.m. timeline of the murders is the right time. I really don't. Because you had all that activity. Hey, Glowy. You had all that activity between 2:45 and 3:15 in the morning around the house. You had the guys at the band field. You had this 5 individuals running away from the house about 3:15, and it was caught on the cops' cam. And yeah, I love our debates, Larry. I really do. But I don't believe that freaking PCA. I think that PCA is just a bunch of garbage. Yeah, I think Dylan's account of what happened that night, yeah, just like what Chaos Sector found out. Yeah, I know, Larry. I know. Yeah, Chloe, I know. But yeah, the coroner couldn't explain a lot of stuff. Yeah, the coroner could not explain a lot of stuff. Like Brett Payne said in the PCA that he saw Maddie and Kaylee with visible stab wounds, but Ethan and Xana had sharp force injuries with a edged weapon. Oh yeah, I know, Deborah, I know. Yep, there you go. DM and BF, I don't think saw shit. I don't even think they saw the killer. Because if you notice in the PCA, Bethany's only noticed to get the downloads off of her phone. No, Holly, I don't think they're being honest. Because in that last Chaos Sector video, Dylan's timeline and whereabouts that night are unknown. Just like Bethany said that she saw Ethan and Xana at the party over at Sigma Chi at 9:00. And she saw them there from 9 to 1:45. Well, how could she see them there at 9 when she didn't get there till 10? Yeah, Holly, if you missed a bunch, go back and watch my previous live. I played 2 videos from Chaos Sector. And they break everything down. Just like Holly and Glowy, that Jack in the Box DoorDash, it was a plant. Emma walked into the Jack in the Box, picked up the food, and then took it to the house. Yeah, even though, yeah, that's a very good point, Holly. Even though you had Dylan claiming she was in a frozen shock phase for 8 hours. Yep, yep, Deborah. And people tried to discredit her. Oh yeah, Larry, I know he's questionable. Just like why did the coroner not want the toxicology report released? She said the toxicology report wouldn't sway the case. Oh, I know, Holly. Oh, Holly. Yeah, you like my new true crime cult lab behind me? Yeah, Deborah, they do. They do lie under oath sometimes. Yeah, people lie under oath constantly. They really do. Do you really think a drug-addled young adult like Dylan Mortensen isn't too shy to lie? Yeah, I don't believe a damn word that comes out of that girl's mouth. I really don't. Uh, yes, Holly. Yeah. I don't believe not one sin word that comes out of Dylan's mouth. I really don't. And I don't believe a word that comes out of Bethany's mouth either. Oh yeah, Larry, I know. I know them already know the answers. Like, why didn't you call 911? Why did you wait 8 hours to call 911? Why did the town know at 8:30 in the morning before the parents of the murdered students? Why did the entire town know before the cops knew? What's she telling the truth about, Holly? Okay, correction, not telling the truth. See, correction. Good way to keep me on my toes, Holly. Yeah, damn good way to keep me on my toes, Holly. Yeah, oh yeah, I know, Deborah. Just like the sororities were called first. Hunter Johnson. It's okay, Holly. Oh, what'd you do? Sleep all day, Holly? See, here's the thing, Deborah. Hunter Johnson is the one that found the bodies at 8:30 in the morning. Yeah, Hunter Johnson's the one that found the bodies at 8:30 in the morning. The entire town knew. The entire college knew. All the sororities knew. And you had Katie, who went on 2020, saying she called Maddie, or not Maddie, Kaylee at 10 a.m. to see if she was all right when she already knew she was dead. It's 3:15 in the morning here. I know. Yeah, just like somebody new has come up on my radar. One of Emma Bailey's friends, Aiden. Who is Aiden? And why was Aiden in a bright green ski mask? Yeah, Holly, Deborah, it's all in the last live stream. I did a couple of Chaos Sectors videos. Yeah, that's what I'm wanting to know, Larry. Well, no, the crime scene wasn't cleared up, Larry. No, the crime scene wasn't cleared up. They all were trying to get their story straight. That's why they waited until noon. And that house was a known party house / drug house. So what's the best way to do it? Call in the sororities, Sigma Chi, Pi Beta Phi, and Alpha Phi. And they came in, and of course Hunter Johnson, he wasn't with Sigma Chi. He was with a different fraternity, but they came in to clear the drugs out of the house. Because don't you find it funny? Almost every picture, Dylan looks stoned, and Bethany looks stoned. That makes me wonder. Yes, Larry, there is a lot of power and money involved. Now, explain this, Larry. No, Kaylee wasn't actually dating anybody. Kaylee was in town to visit her bestie Maddie, who she considers like a sister. She was going to take her, she was going to take her final exam on that following Monday and then leave for Texas. But what I think is there's a lot of people that was pissed off that Kaylee was leaving because she was trafficking drugs for Dylan. Yeah, and why would somebody give them, why would BK give them his phone number? That's what I'm trying to understand. Yeah, but if you notice, she didn't go anywhere with Dylan. She went with Maddie to the corner club. She went with Maddie to the corner club, then to the grub truck, and then there was a drug buy that went down at the grub truck while Kaylee and Maddie was there with Jack F. Hey, Rodney. No, it wasn't Jack S who purchased. It was that heavy set dude that had the brown coat, the brown hat, and the beard. Because you could see him as the one girl walked up, you could see him walk towards her, and then her hand him something. And then if you noticed in that one video, this chick in the black Idaho shirt hands Kaylee something, and you can she has her ticket to her food between her thumb and this finger. She has her hand cupped like this, like she has pills in her hand. And then she looks right directly at the heavyset dude with the hat and the beard, and he looks at her, smiles, and nods. And then during that grub truck video, which I looked up and also saw it on Chaos Sector, the girl in the black Idaho shirt, they're all standing there and they're pointing. She's using her phone and pointing at Kaylee, and Kaylee and Maddie was talking amongst themselves. You could see that entire group that was standing to the right move around behind Kaylee and Maddie and eavesdrop on them. Yeah, I know, Deborah. Thank you, Holly. Thank you. Thank you, Deborah. You guys want me to break this down using a video real quick? Because I'll do that. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about at the grub truck video, okay? Okay, my screen's going to go black for a minute.
Welcome to the chaos sector. WSU Kim claims that we're 75% wrong in our investigative work. So the question I pose to you, ma'am,
Yeah, let me
what are
get
we
past this,
25%
guys.
right about? Is the
Here we
element
go.
of drug possible? We came to the conclusion that Chunky and Susie had exchanged drugs in a previous episode. Others disagree, and we understand.
See that guy right
The
there?
key factor to determining the truth is the element of drug trafficking, overdoses, and several individuals involved in this case who supplied drugs for that town. Bonnie and Clyde, of course. Mind you, Moscow is a small town, my friends, so whoever is supplying the drugs for that town, they are considered big-time pushers. That's probably how Bonnie and Clyde felt about themselves in relation to Moscow. But let's get back into it.
Okay, after Chunky and Susie make their exchange, Susie hugs Kaylee and walks over to another group to the far right side.
That guy right there.
When she arrived there, she told someone
Over
something,
here.
but it clearly was secretive.
See that girl right there in
It was
the...
about her previous interaction, either it be with Chunky or Kaylee. Let's examine.
Wait, I'm sorry, but I think I spotted more drug activity. And unfortunately, it looks like it involved Kaylee. As Susie talks to Kaylee, it appears she handed her what would more than likely be some pills. Kaylee then looks at Chunky. I guess he's the middleman in town. So Kaylee looked to him for confirmation. We need to examine this closely, because once again, this may be more evidence to support the theory behind the motive. Let's look at that segment zoomed in. Examining Kaylee's hand, we see she has her ticket for the food in her left hand and her phone in her right. But her fingers on her left hand are extended out, like cradling something in the palm of her hand while holding the food ticket. I'm convinced that something is in fact pills. Not sure which kind, but we all know fentanyl has been the drug of choice for a lot of those college students, which has resulted in many overdoses. Once again, her index finger is clearly visible as she grips the food ticket with that index finger and her thumb while cradling the pills in the palm of her hand. Yes, there is no other physical reason that index finger would be sticking out like that if she was merely just holding the food ticket. And she is looking down into her palm, not her phone. Kaylee has just been given drugs, and it appears they have been given to her to try out. She looks to Chunky, as if to say, are these safe to take, or will they get me high? Now, Kaylee did look at her phone right before that, but we see her phone right after, clearly not being held by both hands, and the left hand's index finger is extended out, gripping the ticket with thumb and cradling the pills in her palm. Let's replay the entire sequence, and then we can get back to the rest of the examination. This could be groundbreaking evidence if no one else has discovered this.
I would have to agree here. It's not 100%, but from the physical position of her hand and fingers and looking down, I have to come to the conclusion she was looking down into her palm with pills in it. Susie then heads towards the group to the right, and Kaylee sort of walked away in a very, well, suspicious manner. Maddie is at the counter, preoccupied with some frat guy. The reason we come to the conclusion those were pills and not her phone is because her phone was visibly seen being sort of pulled back simultaneously while she had her index finger extended out, looking into her palm. That proves that it wasn't the phone she was looking at, and it definitely wasn't the ticket. And Susie is standing there looking around like a typical drug dealer, anticipating the cell to go through. Mind you, she hadn't interacted with Chunky prior to this moment, and he's been standing there for quite some time. We can say he's the, quote, Clyde Jr. in Moscow, so Kaylee seeks his approval. He appears to stare at her, giving the approval without saying anything. The lower level Bonnie and Clyde here, pushing that filth to their peers. What a fucking disgrace. Let's continue, because this makes the rest of the examination more revealing. She walks over and whispers something in her ear.
Right there.
Then, Susie and the girl in the gray coat glances over in Kaylee's direction, as Susie literally points in that direction while holding her phone. If you put your hand over your mouth or briefly in front of your face while communicating with someone, it's likely a secret message. And that's the concern. Susie communicated a secret to the girl and, of course, pointed in Kaylee's direction. We know Susie communicated something to others about Kaylee. Can't say this is linked to the murders, but based on what we have just examined, It was definitely about drugs. And also she may know that Kaylee and Madison had gotten themselves in trouble. Maybe she attempted to set Kaylee and Maddie up by getting them to try those drugs out. And who knows what would happen. She knew they were drinking, and would that definitely impair them as they would head back home for the night. Mind you, there was no release of that toxicology report. In fact, the fucker claimed it was not relevant to the case. Even that fucking snake, Mark Furman, came out and stated the same thing. What if they were drugged? We did present that as a possible tactic used against them in our original series. And here would be the potential evidence. Someone who may be an associate of another knows something and will pretend like everything is okay while interacting with that particular person. But behind their backs, they spread that something to others. Susie, in my opinion, gives off that Bonnie vibe as well. In other words, someone who can't be trusted. She even resembles her a bit. They smile in your face. All the time they want you erased. Now there's a bit more to examine. Susie's group are to the right side, while Kaylee and Maddie, Jack and Chunky, are on the other side. The guy in the beige hoodie with Susie appears to be scoping the girls out, either by their conversation or what Susie is telling the group at that moment. He looks to their direction once, turns around, then literally snaps his head back to their direction, as if he heard something important. Let's examine that portion. It appears the guy in the beige hoodie, who we'll nickname Scruffy, had been alerted by something regarding those girls. That group, which revealed more people, gradually shift over to where the girls were. It appears to me that they are eavesdropping on Kaylee and Maddie's activity. What do you guys think about this segment of footage? Does it appear that Susie and her clique were aware of the danger those girls were in? And Susie, being a fake friend, gave Kaylee drugs in attempts to impair her and Maddie for later that night. Again, back to the Kanika Jenkins case.
Thank you,
That's
Chloe.
exactly what happened to her. She was drugged at the party and was helpless against her attackers. Maddie was completely trashed already, in which they perhaps already knew she would get trashed like that. But I think Kaylee was sober enough to keep her head on a swivel and perhaps just kept the drugs for, quote, cool points. You never know, she perhaps knew Susie was up to something, but played it off. Fake friends can be spotted, and sometimes you have to play along and keep your eyes on them. And once again, the damage control that the mainstream media executed regarding the communication between Maddie and Adam was so devastating to the trail of truth. We have to put this into context of the setting at the grub truck. Jack warned the girls, we all heard it.
Oh yeah,
Everyone
Deborah, I
on the
know.
wall as key evidence. But the mainstream media intentionally cut that portion out and had the nerve to play the rest of the audio of Maddie stating she told Adam everything. Oh, Kaylee asks Maddie about what she told Adam. You're inquiring about that? So you're just going to ignore what the guy in the hoodie had said prior, which made Kaylee ask Maddie the question, oh, okay, yeah, just cover it up. These pieces of shit. They've done just as much damage in covering up those murders as the authorities. And here's another major problem regarding that video clip. Steve states that the girls were just having fun out on the town and were just having a conversation walking down the street. But we all know that he knew that Showalter had warned the girls in that same clip he refers to. That would have led to a trail.
Why did the media clip out Showalter's warning?
Well, not to ravage up this episode, but Steve also executed damage control. And that's the thing. He's been depicted as the fiercest parent in this case, fighting so hard, being outspoken, and yet audio that could have been potentially a lead to those murders, he simply avoided mentioning it. Based on that depiction, it prevented the public from connecting the dots. Yep, the dots. Obviously, that's not her name nor a nickname, but a name she chose, subliminally letting everyone know you can connect the dots if you pay attention. Anywho, let's examine another important...
Yeah, I know. I don't like Ashley Banfield either, Holly.
I'm sure there's other segments many may suggest to focus on, but let's focus on the departure again. We were supposed to dig deeper into this in the original series, but hey...
Watch Showalter, guys. He goes off towards the east. He doesn't go off towards where Maddie and Kaylee goes.
Now, it could be that they assumed he would follow, but Jack appears confused, as to say, where are you guys going? They head to the left side. Jack appears to not know what to do initially as he looks around. Then he heads to the right side. Now, from this location, let's look at where everyone would have gone, because it is reported that Kaylee and Maddie had been picked up by a private driver. They state they picked the girls up from the grub truck. But since we see the girls are leaving, heading west from the camera angle, we see that they have left the grub truck completely. And this is where we examine their location. Now, this is where the grub truck was located, on or in Friendship Square. Now, there is a bus stop that runs through Main Street. Now, this bus runs until 3 a.m. Keep this in mind.
Oh yeah, I
It's
know,
a free
Holly.
service
Jack
for all
D,
Moscow
Jack D
users.
knows.
Another key point. Jack, on the other hand, may have driven the girls to the bar, and they all walked to the grub
Yeah,
truck from the
everything's
bar.
in our
There's
own
public
opinion
parking
on this
right
channel,
near the
Holly. You know
truck,
that.
and even Friendship Square parking. So this may be why he headed east, which would be in the direction of those parking lots. Could it be that Kaylee and Maddie had departed by public transportation?
Yeah,
from
that's true,
Friendship
Deborah.
Square?
That's true.
The direction they headed is right where the bus stop was, right? And more than likely, that bus runs quite often throughout that area, so it wouldn't be a long wait. The question, though, is where does this bus actually go throughout Moscow? Let's find out. Well, looks like that bus does in fact travel near that area. There is a transit center off Avenue.
Yeah, Chloe, I think all the towns are wrong
And there's
too.
about a 10 to 15 minute walk from Sweet Avenue to Taylor, which they're basically at home at that point. Now, one of our logical theories, based on Maddie's coat being found on that fire hydrant, was that the girls were running away from danger at that point. Some assumed Maddie just threw the coat off, as it was some guy's coat, and she threw it on the fire hydrant. I'm not convinced that was the case. I think they were in danger at that point. It's starting to make a lot of sense, my friends.
Yeah,
The coat
it
was
is.
hanging off of Maddie the entire night, as it was too big for her. I can see her running, and the coat was flailing around, hanging off of her.
I agree with you, Holly. I agree with you.
It more than likely was on the ground near the fire hydrant. Then at some point, somebody just placed it there. The reason the theory about the girls catching the bus seems more logical now is because, for one, it's a free service. Second, well, the bus stop was right there near the grub truck. Third, it runs late up until around 3 a.m. Fourth,
Did you guys know that they had a free bus there in Moscow? They're until 3 a.m.
Maddie's coat was discovered on the fire hydrant a full Main Street away from the home. And examining which direction they went, it appears that was the plan anyway, to catch the bus after grabbing their food. Maybe they didn't want to catch a ride with Jack. No problem. They wanted to catch the bus home. He didn't seem to mind, really. Why pay a private driver when you can get free public transportation that takes you near your home? Now, of course, Maddie was not stable, but a decent walk home can sober you up. About 15 minutes of walking in the crisp, cold air, Maddie would sober up a bit. And I think that was the idea. The chronological order of events is being pieced together even more here. The girls encountered danger, ran home as Maddie pulled her coat off. By the time they got home, it would be approximately 2 a.m. Spoke to other housemates about the incident and called Jack around 2:30 a.m. up until 3 a.m. And it's at this point that danger had made its way into that home. And it was literally swept under the rug or trees as the detective tried to act as if they're just searching the area. Remember, detectives found that coat, and not one single detective, private investigator, nobody reported that it was the same coat Maddie had on earlier Saturday night. I mean, what the fuck is that about? How can you cover up?
Oh, it's okay, Holly.
You're simultaneously displaying on the fucking news. What am I saying? They did the exact same thing with the audio of Jack's warning, and they're both key pieces of evidence that are obviously linked together. That's why they covered it up. See, all of this analyzing we've done justifies our theory that Koberger was framed. Too many holes in the case, and brains for that matter. Brain, matter? Yeah, that matters. I have to make fun, or else the chaos meter will rise. Maybe they got off the bus and they noticed suspicious individuals following them as they were walking home, and ran back to the house as Maddie threw the coat off. We're not claiming this is what happened, but clearly that coat being on that fire hydrant means there was physical activity at that fire hydrant. As for Showalter, he's important because there's the belief he was a suspect and there's the belief he was the big brother that night. The determining factor for me is that he warned the girls about a danger or consequence, which supports the belief that he was the big brother for the girls. But
let's not have an angry boyfriend.
We even suggested that Kaylee and Madison had been kidnapped in relation to that coat being found on the fire hydrant. Our theories are always linked to the evidence and information provided and center around the individuals involved. It's possible they were kidnapped. That's all we wanted to point out. Maddie doesn't have the coat on, and both head back home, which it's assumed that they got home at 1:56 a.m. Remember, going back to the original series, Moscow PD claimed the girls arrived back at home around 1:45 a.m. Where would they get this info from? That's right, the private driver. This same private driver claimed to pick the girls up around 1:40 a.m. This was the initial reports. Then, all of this was changed to the girls arriving back at 1:56 a.m., with Olivia publicly scrutinizing Moscow PD for reporting the incorrect time of arrival. But it would be the private driver who gave Moscow PD that time. Now let's dig a bit once again into this so-called private driver. Let's say
Yeah, so-called
Olivia was
private
right
driver.
about the girls arriving back at 1:56 a.m. Well, this would mean that the private driver originally claimed it was 1:45 a.m., then changed the time to 1:56 a.m. after Olivia's public scrutiny upon Moscow PD. What does this mean, you ask? The private driver doesn't know when the hell they brought the girls home. That's what. And that supports the theory that there wasn't a private driver, as the girls had taken the bus home and walked the rest of the way, as the black coat being discovered on the fire hydrant also supports that theory of pedestrian commuting back home. For those who would ask, why would they lie about the girls getting a ride back as opposed to taking the bus
Why
home?
would they lie?
It's the black coat.
Chloe,
that
Deborah,
determines
and
a lot, my friends.
Holly.
Moscow PD is literally seen confiscating it. They knew that was the same coat Maddie had on.
No, JLR, Deborah,
If that
who
coat
was
there,
impersonating
they
a
would
private
take it back
driver.
home. And if they walked home, nobody would know what was going on during that time frame, as the private driver's accounts do not apply. If they had done their fucking job and reported the way they should and collecting that evidence, we would be able to put pieces together based on that coat being found at that location. DNA would be collected, perhaps DNA around that area, So to prevent that trail of evidence from accumulating, the private driver was the source of their commute back home. Now, this bus theory is logical, and we're not saying they didn't get a ride back, but it sure looks like they would just ride the bus back when the bus stop is right there, and it's close enough for them to walk back home. We're just checking all the boxes here, and it's possible that that's what happened. You know what? I don't really feel like going over all that again.
I understand your frustration, but there's something I just thought about. If we go with the theory that Maddie and Kaylee took the bus and had walked home from the transit center and perhaps had encountered danger near Taylor, this would erase the private driver.
I know, Deborah, I know.
They haven't been identified anyway.
Olivia claimed to view some ring door camera footage in which she physically saw the girls arrive back at home around 1:56 a.m. She claimed they arrived back by Uber. Our previous question, of
And
course, was,
why didn't they leak
guys
any more
see
video
the
from
numbers
1112 King Road?
1:56
They just leaked that right there.
showing the actual surveillance footage. They leaked out the Linda Lane footage, suggesting Koberger's vehicle was there, right? So you will leak that footage, indicating Koberger was physically there, but won't release the footage from the neighbor's camera, which would literally show the alleged Koberger's vehicle arriving on King and Queen Road. Wouldn't that be the nail in the coffin? That would show Koberger driving in that neighborhood, right? The reason that neighbor's camera footage wasn't released is because, well, the obvious reason, of course, would be the other devastating evidence, such as the violence, being picked up by that security camera. Well, based on the theory that Kaylee and Maddie took the bus home, you might hear screaming and several people running around during that 2 a.m. time frame. May not see the girls due to the shortcut through those homes, but you would definitely hear them, and you wouldn't see any vehicles dropping them off entering on King Road. And that eliminates the private driver. My point here is there is a possibility that the danger was almost simultaneously approaching with both groups, which led to all of them attempting to get back home together. What if the girls had went to the Sigma Chi party, meeting up with Xana, Ethan, and even Bethany? The reports claim that Ethan and Xana had left the party, and nobody knew where they were from 9 p.m. to about 1:45 a.m. This is the same time that Kaylee and Maddie were reported to arrive back at home in the initial report. It's possible that the 4 victims were all together running back home. And this aligns with the audio in the Linda Lane surveillance we examined, which obviously had individuals yelling and screaming around that same time frame of everyone's arrival back home. Now, Bethany did claim to attend the party with Ethan and Xana, but obviously she wouldn't claim to see Maddie and Kaylee there. But in this setting, all of them have encountered danger. Mind you, once again, Dylan's whereabouts were not confirmed that night.
See right there, Dylan's whereabouts were not confirmed.
Theorized that Dylan was with none other than Bonnie and Clyde, or at least in communication with them. And they all end up at the house later Sunday morning, based on Dot's accounts. For those who haven't been,
Dylan was with Emma and Demetrius, Bonnie and Clyde.
Party with Ethan and Xana, right? Moscow PD even reported that Bethany saw the couple at the party from 10 p.m. to 1:45 a.m. Yet there are conflicting reports, because there is another report that claims Bethany and Dylan arrived back home together, which was around 1 a.m. A 45-minute gap does not get misinformed like this. So Bethany was at the party. The reason they wanted to pair Bethany with Dylan is because Dylan would have gotten home first, and her accounts would change completely based on being at home alone for about an hour. In addition to that, more suspicion would be raised if her whereabouts were not accounted for, which they weren't. They attempted to pair Bethany and Dylan out on the town together, but you can't hold the lies up to the light forever, my friends. The audio from Linda Lane suggests that there was a physical altercation and someone was being beaten severely. We came to the conclusion it was Ethan. Now, there are claims that Ethan and Xana actually got home around 12 a.m. and were just hanging out. But there is no real way to prove that. Heck, I guess there's no real way to prove anything for that matter. Yet even if this were the case, I think Ethan had decided to fight, and that fighting occurred outside near the house. Now here's something interesting. Bonnie had or has a friend named Aiden. Now in our analysis of that audio, we claimed—
I know, Chloe, I know.
We also suggests that the name Aiden was also heard. It's a lot of confusion because there was another male named Ethan. One of the students stopped by Moscow PD during the public intoxication citations was also named Ethan. Now that just blurs the lines of who was physically near Queen Road Apartments based on these individuals. But going back to Bonnie's friend, Aiden, not too fond of digging into the social media aspects in our investigations, but sometimes it's worth taking a peek. Aiden, or Aiden Barnhart, seems to be quite the wild girl.
Aiden Barnhart.
Not a surprise if you're friends with Bonnie. Here's a photo of her, and we assume her guy, posing with green
See
masks.
right there, the green masks.
Kind of makes you wonder about Dylan and her boyfriend wearing those masks as well. Hey? Now, what people need to understand with this type of messaging is this depicts criminal activity. This is not a pair who genuinely work hard for the money. Rather, manipulate, scheme, and scam their way to obtaining that type of money. Perhaps drug trafficking as well. And guess who they are depicted as by someone who left a post? That's right, Bonnie and Clyde. Go figure. Now, Aiden's hometown is Moscow, but she doesn't reside there anymore. But if we focus on the element of drug trafficking, a lot of these peddlers merely travel across the country, staying in hotels, or even set up operations through an apartment. You have to keep in mind, they do generate a lot of money. $25 can skyrocket to $1,000 before you blink an eye, and at the end of the week, they've generated perhaps $10,000. As the old folks would say, if you don't have a pay stub you can show me for that new car you purchased, then don't come around here anymore. And unfortunately, we have to address the parents in Moscow in general. A lot of those parents just can't resist the financial help their drug peddling children bring to the table. If your child throws $25,000 on the table and says, go take a vacation, the parents start to give in, as they know it's wrong, but bills are always staring them in the face. But the child is actually using their parents as a form of assurance, someone to bail them out of jams when they get busted. The money is more of a guilt trip investment, holding it against them. So when they get in trouble, the parents will feel obligated to bail them out of those jams due to their so-called contributions to the household. It happens all over the country and the world. Remember Bonnie's DUI arrest? Remember her phone call? Yeah, looking to family members to get you out of a jam, a problem you created. That name was heard, we can conclude, which means either there is another Aiden or that was the same Aiden who is Bonnie's friend. And of course, that Aiden was screaming for help regarding something, as we broke down.
Yeah, that audio clearly is linked to the murders. If only they released the neighbor's camera footage, well, then we would know the actual truth. It would show any and everyone entering that neighborhood, from vehicles at certain times and even individuals walking around. That's why they never released it.
Yeah, that's a possibility, Holly.
Taking a screenshot at 1:56 a.m. was to justify Olivia's claim that the girls arrived back at this time. But it doesn't show proof of that, so it's worthless from an investigative point of view. The DoorDash driver arrives around 4 a.m. But let's go over this again.
Here's breaking down the DoorDash
Based on
driver,
Xana's
guys.
phone data, she was awake around 4 a.m. as she was on TikTok at this time. But they never released any information about Xana ordering DoorDash, no receipts, no phone calls, no proof that she ordered anything. So as we pointed out, there wasn't any actual DoorDash delivery. Rather, someone pretending to order DoorDash to justify that Xana was, well, alive. Let's elaborate on that because you have to think about how sick the perpetrator was in this plan. After the murders, the so-called DoorDasher ordered for Xana to not only come back to make sure everything was accomplished, but to also make it appear Xana was alive. Moscow PD simply aligned the time of death with the so-called DoorDash delivery of around 4 a.m. Remember, they originally claimed the time of death was around 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. They had to change the time of death because, obviously, the time frame of 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. means the murders essentially happened in the 3 a.m. hour, and the crime had settled close to 4 a.m. The murders were approximately about 9 minutes, right? That's also approximately around 3:15 to 3:30 a.m. roughly. I would assume the DoorDasher dashed to Jack in a crack and just dropped off the food around 4 a.m. Let's not forget, the employees at the crack stated specifically it was a girl with black hair who ordered and picked up the food. Now, obviously, this is Bonnie plotting to cover up the crimes, and surely her partner in crime was lurking around as well that night. If these two are involved, are many to suggest that Kohberger was the hired hitman to take care of their troubles? We did give that a moment to ponder in our original series, but I'm pretty sure Kohberger would have already squealed even as soon as he was arrested. I think Kohberger was being spied on and tracked by these two, as they frequented WSU campus as well in Pullman. Again, both universities are involved here. We don't know who could be involved from both sides, but we do know both sides are involved in drug trafficking and have a common link of Bonnie and Clyde. That's the setup. There was no order from Xana. And if there isn't an order from Xana, then the DoorDash delivery is a part of a plot. Simple as that. Did the mainstream media cover that? Did they question who delivered that?
What do you guys think?
When the audio proves that it was someone who ordered and delivered it?
Did they stage the crime scene?
Segment of damage control. It's like an impersonation. We're picking up on a lot of this involving this case. Basically impersonating Xana as ordering food, a fucker impersonating a DoorDash driver when she's a drug dealer, and even a so-called true crime investigator who has a criminal background of impersonating others who just so happen to be covering this case, like physically covering the case. He definitely can impersonate a private driver. You have someone impersonating a private driver.
That was a dig at JLR, guys.
Private driver. As for the TikTok activity, well, the phone could be active on the site for quite some time, up to a few hours if I'm not mistaken. For individuals over the age of 18, we went over all of this. The plot was to make it appear Xana was alive, and Moscow PD did the same fucking thing. Now, there is a correction to one of our claims, though, which is important. After reviewing that Linda Lane surveillance...
Yeah, Deborah, I know. Did you hear the dig that Chaos Sector did at JLR?
White or silver. Of course, we theorized that it was Bonnie driving that black Toyota Corolla in her DUI arrest. We went back and examined it closer, and it wasn't a black vehicle. Yet, Bonnie was clearly the DoorDasher, so she was driving around in that area somewhere. And once again, the neighbor's camera footage, the arrival of the private driver, the arrival of the DoorDasher, the arrival of the alleged Kohberger, why wouldn't this be released? Everything would be confirmed with it, right?
Hey, I wasn't trying to be funny, Deborah. It was Chaos Sector who was doing the dig at JLR.
And even the private driver, for that matter. My friends, we're simply exhausted with this case now. We'll take a brief intermission, not sure what we'll cover next, but stay tuned.
Okay, hold on. I'll go back to it.
To ponder as we leave you. If Kohberger was stalking someone in that home, why wouldn't he just pretend to be a private driver?
Listen.
Who ordered and picked up the food. Now, obviously, this is Bonnie plotting to cover up the crimes, and surely her partner in crime was lurking around as well that night. If these two are involved, are many to suggest that Kohberger was the hired hitman to take care of their troubles? We did give that a moment to ponder in our original series, but I'm pretty sure Kohberger would have already squealed even as soon as he was arrested. I think Kohberger was being spied on and tracked by these two, as they frequented WSU campus as well in Pullman. Again, both universities are involved here. We don't know who could be involved.
Now listen, Holly, here comes the dig at JLR.
In drug trafficking and have a common link of Bonnie and Clyde. That's the setup. There was no order from Xana. And if there isn't an order from Xana, then the DoorDash delivery is a part of a plot. Simple as that. Did the mainstream media cover that? Did they question who delivered that food when the audio proves that it was someone who ordered and delivered it? Oh no, we're just going to present another segment of damage control. It's like an impersonation. We're picking up on a lot of this involving this case. Basically impersonating Xana as ordering food, a fucker impersonating a DoorDash driver when she's a drug dealer, and even a so-called true crime investigator.
Right
who
here.
has a criminal background of impersonating others who just so happen to be covering this case, like physically covering the case. He definitely can impersonate a private driver. You have someone
That was the
impersonating a
dig
private
right there.
driver using a name of someone else who was not the actual private driver. As for the TikTok activity, well, the phone could be active on the site for quite some time, up to a few hours if I'm not mistaken. For individuals over the age of 18, we went over all of this. The plot was to make it appear Xana was alive, and Moscow PD did the same fucking thing. Now, there is a correction to one of our claims, though, which is important. After reviewing that Linda Lane surveillance a bit closer, the vehicle we claimed was black. Circling Queen Road Apartments was actually white or silver. Of course, we theorized that it was Bonnie driving that black Toyota Corolla in her DUI arrest. We went back and examined it closer, and it wasn't a black vehicle. Yet, Bonnie was clearly the DoorDasher, so she was driving around in that area somewhere. And once again, the neighbor's camera footage, the arrival of the private driver, the arrival of the DoorDasher, the arrival of the alleged Koberger. Why wouldn't this be released? Everything would be confirmed with it, right? Unless something doesn't add up. And we have to assume it compromises the claims that Koberger was there. And even the private driver, for that matter. My friends, we're simply exhausted with this case now. We'll take a brief intermission, not sure what we'll cover next, but stay tuned. Oh, and I guess, as something to ponder as we leave you, if Koberger was stalking someone in that home, why wouldn't he just pretend to be a private driver? This is the chaos.
So what do you guys think? Miss EB staging the crime scene with the DoorDash, her physically walking into the Jack in the Box, ordering the food and picking it up, and then taking it to the house to stage the timeline. You want to hear something funny, guys? Guess who I got a criticism from in a comment? WSU Kim left me a comment 2 days ago. No, Holly, it was WSU Kim left me a comment 2 days ago. Stating that BK wasn't framed. Oh no, correction. She didn't frame him. I wondered when I was going to hear from her. Yep. I wondered when I was going to hear from WSU Kim, and I got a comment a couple of days ago on one of my videos stating that she didn't frame Brian Koberger. Yeah, I know Deborah G. She goes, I love your channel, but you got one thing wrong. I didn't frame Brian Koberger. You know, Deborah, I wondered when I was going to hear from her. I mean, every other content creator has heard from her. Chaos Sector. Drunk Turkey Show. They've heard from her and they've talked to her. Yeah, Deborah, I know. Yep, it was clear about her. Yeah, and I felt very blessed the other night. Tommy from True Crime actually left a comment in my live chat from Once Upon a Crime. Because I was using a clip from Strange Suspicion because somebody had told him I was using a clip from her, and he just wanted to make sure I wasn't taking all the credit. And I told him in the live chat that no, I always give other creators a shout out, which I did with her that night. And he goes, awesome. Have a good show. I'm subbing. No, correction. He said, I'm subbing up. I did not know that, Deborah G. Thank you, Holly. Holly. Holly, when are you going to become a member? And since it's been a while since you come to visit, Holly, I have a merch store now too. Oh, Holly. I love all my subscribers. I have a sweat set you might like, Holly. It's got an evil clown all down the left leg and an evil clown on the front of the sweatshirt. And I'm having a sale. At checkout, put the promo code in Flash, and you get 30% off. Yeah, I've got pendants, I've got sweats, yeah, Deborah G, you heard sale. I've got pendants, sweats, t-shirts, a backpack that says True Crime Cult on it. Thank you, Holly. The emblem on the screen is the inspiration. When you see this, when you see this face, I'm Robert. When you see this, I am the True Crime Cult. Kind of like two personas in one. You like the switch, Holly? From Robert to the Joker? Yeah, Deborah G, if you're still here, Go check out my merch store. Put the promo code in Flash, and you get 25 to 30% off your first order. I've got pendants, sweats, t-shirts, backpacks, wall art. Beanies, tie-dye ball caps. It should be on my home channel as shopping. Let's see. It went black for a minute, guys. There's the link, Deborah. You're welcome, Deborah. Hey, Holly, if you want to click on the link, there's the store. That's the link for my store, guys. You're welcome. No, I don't have an email. Thanks, Rodney. I left the link to my merch store in the chat, Rodney. No, I don't post my email address, Holly. You're welcome, Rodney. And if you enter Flash at checkout, you get 25 to 30% off. Make one for who, Holly? You have a good night, Deborah. Did you check out the merch store? Which one you looking at, Holly? The one that has the clown on the left leg? I'll create a Discord for that eventually. Yeah, because the last time I gave my email out, Holly, I had some nut job camera Terry sending me a bunch of conspiracy theory emails. Yeah, I do read the comments. And I always heart yours. And Rodney's and Deborah's. Yeah, that's true. Well, since my daughter has school Monday through Friday, I do the live streams now when I can. Hey, Rodney, that's my Discord. Send me a friend request in my Discord. And that's going to be under ideas and feedback. It should let you know when I do a premiere. That's normally my live stream is when I do a premiere. And it pops up on all the subscribers and members' phones. You're welcome, Rodney. Okay, you have a good day, Holly. Send me a friend request on Discord. You have my Discord name. You too, Holly. This is True Crime Cult signing out. Peace.